of the surf world? Am I identified as one of those yoga Costa Rica people? Am I, like someone who goes to the North Shore every winter? Am I, like whatever? There's so many boxes you can get into. And so I think a part of what started me wanting to write this book about surfing and tell the stories prior to Duka Hanamoku's arrival on the scene was to kind of, get the context, because there's also, even within the surf history about how surf history is written, there's a lot of erroneous narratives. And even in like Finnegan's book, like he doesn't actually trace that history. He does it like in a couple paragraphs in one of his chapters, but it's not exactly right. So I wanted to like fill that out, which also means filling out what Hawaii is. And so in order to do that, like I have to kind of bring myself back to my childhood and then the context of my family there. And then also see how my family was woven into the fabric of how Hawaii developed, at least for this period of time when the immigrants arrived on the islands. And, and then I've told this before too, that my uncle, who was a musician who was very highly regarded and very influential in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and how he got his start actually on the beach. He learned how to play Hawaiian music on the beach, hanging out with the surfers in Waikiki. And he met these really significant figures. 3 guys, I don't know if this is too tangential, but there was 3 significant figures that he met in the early 60s. Bla Pahinui, who is the son of Gabby Pahinui, who is, that name alone in Hawaii is like, he is an icon of music. Boogie Kalama, who was a guy who ended up on the Hokulea Polynesian Voyaging Society. So Polynesian Voyaging Society, the Hokulea double-hulled canoe, who Eddie Aikau got involved with, like that was such a significant moment in bringing back the Hawaiian consciousness of star navigation, and how the Polynesians traveled across the Pacific. They did not know how the Polynesians got across. I mean, they had theories, but it's Hokulea canoe and the Polynesian Voyaging Society to prove it and do it. And that whole story is phenomenal. And then, so Boogie Kalama. And then the third one is the Patterson brothers. One of the Pattersons being, I think it's Robert, Roland, and I can't remember what the third brother's name was. Ronald and Roland. I'm not sure. So there was 3 of them, right? And there were these like, the Patterson brothers were these like crazy South Shore surfers. Like they were known on the South Shore as just like these amazing surfers.
There's the T. Patterson, San Clemente now. He's an offspring of one of the 3 brothers.
So the 3 brothers ended up moving to California and working for Hobie as sanders, glassers, and whatever else. And so one of them, I forget which one, T. Patterson's the son of one of those. So here's just this little, facet of Hawaii and how the ocean brings people together, and how music was actually because all 3 of those guys were all playing slacky guitar, which is a style of guitar that developed in Hawaii. So my uncle learned from them, and then he went on to have this music career. Waikiki is not only the birthplace of surfing as we know it today, right? Because surfing, of course, begins in Polynesia and comes to Hawaii, but the dissemination of surfing happens in Waikiki, happens from the Beach Boys, of which the Kahanamoku brothers were a part. The music industry in Hawaii begins in Waikiki because of the hotels. And so the Beach Boys, who were all playing music on the beach, would get hired by the hotels to play music. So this is why music and surfing went hand in hand together. So the whole Hawaiian musical revival happens because of the Waikiki nightclubs, bars, jam sessions, whatever was going on. And my uncle,
tourist scene.
The tourists. So there was music for the tourists, hapa-haole music for the tourists, and then there was the Hawaiian, what the Hawaiians were listening to, but still some English hapa-haole music, but like a little bit more local style. But then it all got mixed together. So Hawaiian music is like a layering of all these different musical influences, and if you go to Hawaii and you listen to someone's, musical catalog, they will have things that span, from the 50s, really touristy Waikiki stuff to like a little bit more contemporary Hawaiian music that brought back, the actual Hawaiian language into the music. And, it's this amalgam of stuff. So anyway, so I'm trying to bring all of these things into context with this book. Mm-hmm. And also it's illustrated. So knowing that people have a hard time reading, I figure if you look at pictures, I like picture books. So I'm drawing and I'm writing and drawing, and I really feel like it should be finished right now, but I had to take a break and, do some other stuff. So it's still, it's still on the back burner, and there's just a couple of chapters I have to like rewrite and finish, but I feel like I need to tap into something that's a little bit deeper in my, emotional memory bank that I'm unable to access right now, because I feel like COVID and cancer and everything is taking up a lot of real estate.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
So it's like I'm just kind of keeping it there because I have to, like, when I go back to it, I feel like I have to tap into, like, my family, my grandparents and my uncle, and they're all gone. So I have to really bring back these memories. And, when you do that kind of work, because you've done that with your own family, you need to really make space for it and put yourself aside. Mm-hmm. And right now there's too much happening in our like day to day to like get there. So
yeah, I mean, that's crazy, right? Because back to the whole conversation about time, like it feels like in this time, we should have the time to kind of like get lost in the projects and the world, worlds that are day-to-day New York regular lives were just too distracting, right? We needed to be able to immerse. We needed the time space to do that, and this kind of disconnection. But crazy enough, COVID just feels busier. Like even just I get overwhelmed going to my emails of all these opportunities that this class and that forum and this talk and this discussion, this happy hour and it's just like, oh my God, I have no time to do anything. Everyone's trying to get at you from this singular source of the internet. Like, and you can access the world. You can access the world of thought and, so many conversations and so many amazing. I mean, I guess this is also.
Yeah. But I think all these new projects, like, so when I put this one project aside just for a bit, like I've felt like I had to go back to some other things that I had put aside prior to it. So I kind of feel like if we don't stress ourselves out so much and like do whatever happens to be the inspiration of the moment, like you and I doing this podcast, like, it's like, this is what's happening now. So just, follow this down the road. It's important. Right. So I feel like I've made time to do these other things, and even being in touch with people you haven't been in touch with that much. Like I feel like my relationships with people have strengthened in a weird way.
Even for sure.
We can't hang out, like even just Zooming with people and talking to them more frequently. Yeah. So
taking the distractions out of it, the loud bar and the cocktails. Well, maybe sometimes there are cocktails involved, but
yeah.
But yeah. And also who you choose to spend that time with, right? Yeah. Now it's like, okay, this time is valuable. Like I only have a certain number of hours in the day, and I'm not really a big phone person to begin with. If I see you in person, I'm there with you 1,000%. There's nothing else happening, but so just the choosing who you spend time with at home while you're doing other things. It's like to carve out that space is. And there are also people that I want to connect with that I haven't been able to just because I haven't had time.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is also you can connect around the world. So despite time zones, it's like now you're choosing. So it's like, oh, the friend I want to talk to right now happens to be, in Australia, or happens to be, wherever in California. So it's just a different way of accessing. I don't know. This has really been fascinating, COVID. I mean, I would rather it not be, happen.
Yeah.
But
it's brought up a lot of
really fascinating. And
it's a lot.
I feel like it just accelerates all the things that we imagine are like the sci-fi realities that existed in the movies. I feel like it's just accelerating it in like this, like it's just happening so fast now. Like I can see all those things that seem so wonky in sci-fi films. Like I can see this, how it's taking root, and that we can come out of this and it's like totally in place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like that picture that I don't know if you've seen pictures of Domino Park where they draw, for social distancing because so many people were using city public space, and it's by the water and it's pretty, on a pretty day. They had basically drew circles of where people can sit, and they're all like spaced apart. And it looks so sci-fi, especially with all the new buildings behind it. And it's just like these circles, and people are like quietly sitting in each of the circles, like all orderly, and it just looks so crazy. But, of course, this is all spoken from the vantage point that we are lucky to be alive. I mean, really, honestly, that's, whenever someone's like, how are you? It's like, I'm alive, period. Like there's nothing more than that at this point. Like so many people have really, so many people have died. So many people.
I know.
So many people. And then exponential to that, how many people then have lost someone? Like, one person's death is a whole community. It's a whole family, extended family, friends. I mean, it's just crazy to see the places where it hasn't impacted, and they're just like, I don't understand why it has to be like this. And it's like, are you not noticing that the whole world is kind of locked down? Like, this is not your local government conspiracy to do whatever to you. Like, this is real. And it feels like those movies where you see people from the future trying to warn the people from the past and be like, no, don't do that. And they still do it, like hindsight 2020. And it felt like, when the thing was happening in China and everyone was like, it's just happening in China. That's just like what happens over there in that part of the world. And then it happened in Italy, and like, oh my God, Western world. But still people were just like, oh, that's terrible. But not unless you had a direct connection to people in Italy, maybe, or Europe. You're just like, meh. And then when it came to New York, and then it became real, and it just kept, and then like other states were like, nah, it's like whatever, because it's so far away and they don't know anyone. And in New York, everyone's known someone who's passed. I mean, I know plenty of people, and I know people who know a lot of people. Like I'm like 1 degree or away from, just a lot of people who've lost people. So it's a crazy time. But hopefully for those of us who are fortunate to survive it, we can hopefully create something, use this time to learn and connect and build in interesting ways.
Yeah, I don't know. It is interesting. Can they draw circles in the water around? Can we somehow have like I don't know what, like?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there doesn't seem to be this kind of like awareness across the board.
No, it doesn't, especially for young, healthy people who think they're immune somehow. Yeah. Which is why I'm a little bit afraid of like if the virus is.
But I think that this is interesting because like we say young, healthy, it's like, I live in a community that's more perhaps racially diverse. I mean, there's a sizable African American community. I feel like those kids are very aware. Like I see kids with masks, sometimes even the full like, plastic, what do you call those?
Shield.
Like, I saw a kid wearing a shield and a mask yesterday, going for a run. Like it's the, affecting different communities in different ways. And the crazy thing, it's not crazy, it's like typical, right? Like it's never just about a virus, this biological thing. It always breaks down to social, cultural, like political, like the human stuff gets in the way. So like as far as how healthcare, like diet, access to good food, access to clean water, like all the human stuff, all the other stuff, it falls, like it's related to that. It's never just this biological thing and how it accesses you. It has to do with like how you access the world.
Right. Your vulnerability is not your physical body alone. It's your social status, your economic status.
Absolutely.
Geographical location.
Yeah. What your neighborhood looks like how many people live in your building, how many people live in your apartment, access to public space, how you have to work, how you have to survive.
Right. If you're an essential worker or if you live with an essential worker.
What you're exposed to. Yeah. Or you have roommates because you can't afford to live by yourself or, all of it. So anyway,
do you have a podcast here? We talk a lot about, you're going to have to edit this down.
Oh,
went for an
I'm
hour and
sorry,
a half.
I'm sorry, Tyler. I think Tyler's gonna have to go through this, and he's gonna be like, give me mandates. Like, all right,
Wait, do you have to edit it, or
30-minute
Tyler
cap.
edit it?
I hope he edits it.
Oh my God, we've gone all over the place, Karen. We can make this
I know.
large for him.
Oh, Grace, thank you so much. We'll talk
All right.
again soon, and